Hey guys, let's just jump straight in and talk about the 14 books I read in May because I have a lot of thoughts. So I started off May with Whisper, which is another Lynette Noni book. She is the author of the Prison Healer series that I love. And I was like, I like her writing. I want to see if her vibe translates in her other books or if it was just specifically the Prison Healer that I liked. So we have an 18-year-old FMC. Just like I said about her Prison Healer books, the young ages of these characters didn't really affect my reading. Because when they're so young, I'm usually like, really? A 17-year-old is doing this? So we have Jane Doe. I can't give you her real name because it'll ruin it. She's been locked away for almost 3 years. These first few chapters, I'm like, okay, it's kind of giving Shatter Me since she was also locked away and didn't really speak. Jane Doe actually doesn't speak at all. She's being experimented on, which is basically torture. I'm just wondering, can she truly not speak or is she just being quiet? That part's very intriguing. When she says one word, I don't think that's a spoiler because come on, she's gonna have to say one word in these books. So when she says that one word, I'm just like, what? That one word changes everything. And this is where I have to stop because if I continue, it'll ruin the whole series. The book ends on a cliffhanger. I start reading the second book, Weapon, and I just stop after the first chapter because I'm like, no, Lynette, the reason I like you is because of your writing style and how it never sounds like a filler. Like there are just never any filler vibes in her books. But this second book, I was reading it, I'm like, okay, this is starting to remind me of Guild. My beef with the Guild series is how fillery those books are. I was kind of disappointed. Like she'll write a line and then she'll reword it and then repeat it to sound different. It took me almost 2 weeks to finish this. I was so close to DNFing it, but I had to push through. I eventually got into it, but I didn't think it was worth the read, even though the first one ended on a cliffhanger. I would have been okay with just reading the first book and ending with it there. These are her older books. Prison Healer is newer, so maybe I'll try reading her even newer books because those will probably be better than Whisper and Weapon. So my next book. If you love Fourth Wing, I'll probably advise you to skip through this part. If you're obsessed, if this is like one of your favorite books, then please skip this part. So I finally decided to read Fourth Wing. I was putting it off for so long because I feel like it was so overhyped on TikTok. This is the only TikTok book where I actually knew what was going on in the book. Like I said, all these books I've read, I know zero about. I like going in not knowing anything about a book so I can form my own opinions. But this popped up so much that I knew it was about dragons. I knew the FMC was Violet. And I knew her love interest is Xaden. I've seen so many TikToks where people rate MMCs and Xaden's always at the top. Xaden. Oh my gosh, Xaden is my number one. I was also getting teenager vibes from what I gathered and the fact that my best friend was like, it's okay. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna like it because we've agreed on every book so far. So I have both high and low expectations because of TikTok. I will read you the negative comments that I've seen so much. Fourth Wing reads like it was written by a 14-year-old. Writing style equals juvenile. The dragons being present is the only thing holding it up. If you read a lot, you might not be able to get past the bad writing style. Painfully mid. Fourth Wing is if you took every book trope ever and put it in one place. And then the other half is, oh my gosh, this is my favorite book. This is the best book ever. So I start. I'm trying so hard not to go in with anyone's opinion. So while I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it. I want to say I'm a little over halfway through the book and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I see it. I see why everyone's saying the writing is juvenile. There's no depth to the characters. Honestly, I don't know why Xaden is the main guy everyone wants. He's not dull. I mean, he is a little, but it's like there's no personality to him. Nothing special stands out. Nothing about him screams, oh my gosh, this is the number one boy I want out of all these MMCs. What's that saying? He's got the personality of a wet towel. Oh my gosh, people are gonna hate me. So I'm done with the book. Pushing everyone's obsessions and opinions aside. If I read this without knowing how popular it was, my review would be, okay, this is a book about a girl joining a dragon academy. Everyone treats her as a very fragile girl. I mean, she is literally physically and emotionally. Of course, she falls in love with the boy she shouldn't be falling in love with. End scene. That would be my summary of the book. The ending wasn't enough to pull me into the second book. Again, the writing felt very basic. It's classified as NA, but it reads more like a young adult book. I mean, that spicing really didn't turn it into a grown-up book. This reminds me of how I was obsessed with Twilight in high school, and if I read them now, it would clearly read like it's for teenagers. There were so many lines where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cheesy. If you haven't watched my other book talk videos, I have a thing for the strong, badass FMCs. We have this badass, strong female lead. The stronger the female lead, the more I love the book. That is not the FMC in Fourth Wing. Of course, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, she's just starting out. She's just entering school. People are constantly making fun of how fragile and weak she is. She's gonna grow into this strong woman. I asked my best friend about it. I was like, does she get better? Does she get stronger with the next books? And she was like, yeah, nothing really changes about her. Her relationship with Xaden doesn't mature either. So yeah, even more reason I didn't want to continue. You can give me shit for liking ACOTAR and not Fourth Wing. At least with the characters in ACOTAR, all of them are very distinct from each other. We start with Farah already being a strong woman. Rysand has way more personality than Xaden. You can feel how strong the love is and the chemistry and the longing. The romance in Fourth Wing is like, nothing stands out. It feels more like an attraction versus love. And it's not even an enemies to lovers thing. They start out not liking each other, but I wouldn't really say they're enemies. They hook up pretty fast. If this is your first book after years and years of not reading, I can understand if you like it. It's simple, the writing is easy to get into, but knowing how popular this is makes me so confused. My favorite comment was, it's a popcorn book, no nutritional value but fun to eat. It's like when you watch trashy TV shows, you can just rot on the couch, enjoy it, but it does nothing for your brain. You don't have to think too hard because there's no substance to it. Okay, I'm done. I am done. Was I harsh? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't get mad at me. If I read this when it first came out, I would have been like, it's okay. Nothing special. Another book I would easily forget. But reading this, knowing how popular it is, made me judge this more because I was expecting something epic. And it was the complete opposite of that. I told my best friend, I was like, can you just summarize the next two books for me? Because honestly, I don't feel like reading them. And she goes pretty in depth. When she's done, I was like, okay, I can't tell if the books sound bad because of how you're telling me the story or because it actually doesn't sound that interesting or epic. And she was like, no, it's not a good read. It's the books. And yeah, I don't understand. There are like a million books way better than this, but I don't see why this is the hyped up one. Okay, let's move on. I'm probably gonna bring up my hair because I feel like I want to cover that. I put concealer on that bruise, but let's pretend it's not there. I'm gonna like talk like this. Okay, next I read Fearless. This is the last book to, I don't remember the name of the series, but Powerless series. This was a roller coaster of emotions for me because I really did not like the first one, but I loved the second one so much. Now we have the third one, which is crazy because it's a mix between my love for the second one and my dislike, my dissatisfaction with Powerless. So I start reading this book and I'm excited that my love for Reckless will easily flow into Fearless. If you have not watched my other book talk videos, I've mentioned that I'm getting sick of castles. I start to get turned off when there's a castle in a book. And I love the second book so much because it wasn't in a castle. They were out of that castle, they were trying to kill each other, and it was just the two of them. Now with the third book, they're back in the castle. They're not trying to kill each other. And it's not just the two of them. I'm reading the first parts. I'm honestly not enjoying it. I'm like, oh no, this is starting to sound more like Powerless. My annoyance for him calling her darling has come back. I'm sorry, but a teenage boy saying darling, that is not hot. My annoyance has come back on him sounding like a woman writing a man's perspective versus a man himself. It sounded like the male character was a woman writing a male character. My annoyance when she had to go through something that she did in the first book, I was just like, really? Again? That's the reason why I didn't like the first book. And she kind of brought it back in the third book. So she had to go through that first task. Meh, didn't really have any feelings for that. She had to go through the second task. Third task, I was like, yeah, I spilled a few tears with that third task. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is getting better because that third thing she had to do like really hit me. And like, I feel like that's when I started to get into the flow of things. So even though their love and passion feels subtle compared to other books I love, it's still there. You can still feel it. So yeah, that third thing really got to me. So we get through another section after those challenges. This is a long book. Then the next and last section of the book, now that was a plot twist. That was a mind blown. I enjoyed everything about this last section. I couldn't put the book down. Everyone's saying the ending felt rushed, but I actually enjoyed the speed of it. It's like when you're watching a movie, it's slow, then the speed starts building up and building up and building up, and then bam, chaos. I had some questions when I was done with the book, and when I went on Reddit, a lot of people had those same questions. I was like, damn, if you think I'm harsh, you need to go to Reddit and read book reviews and forums. These people are like ruthless nitpickers. Guys, this is a fantasy. It's not real. Don't overthink every single thing. Oh, and I totally forgot about the prologue in the book until I saw it brought up on TikTok and someone explained it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. So when you're done with the book, go back and reread the prologue. But yeah, I still enjoyed it, and dude, I got more bummed about these 3 books ending versus the 6 books in the Guild series. Okay, next we have Lights Out. This is the book where everyone's like, this is your intro book into dark romance. Even though, again, I personally wouldn't say this is dark romance. This is more in Butcher and Blackbird territory. Butcher and Blackbird is like Lights Out light, where it's cute and funny and not dark romance at all. Again, I'm still confused on where the dark romance line is drawn, because if you read Lights Out, then Insatiable or Haunting Adeline Next, you'd be like, oh my gosh, those books are dark romance. This is just a fun book where the FMC is crushing on this masked guy online, and you can guess what happens next. There's no darkness to it. The MMC is actually like the sweetest guy ever, and even he has way more personality than Xaden. But yeah, it was a fun read. I could totally see this as being an intro to dark romance. So I have these physical books that have been sitting on my shelf for months. So we have Metal Slinger and then The Nightingale. I wanted to read as many books I could on Kindle while I had the 3 months free, so I just left these to read for later. So I opened up The Metal Slinger, and the first page, on the second line, Kai pops up. I'm like, no, Fearless is still in my mind. Kai is also the name of the MMC in the Powerless series. So I was like, okay, I have to put that aside. So I went into The Nightingale. This was on a few people's, not even monthly favorites, like on someone's, I feel like I've seen this on a few people's like yearly favorites or overall book of the year. And this book is actually, is it 10 years old? I feel like it's a pretty old book. It says copyright 2015, so yeah, like 10 years old. Also something I knew absolutely nothing about. I just knew that this was a classic, so I bought the physical book. The first chapter, we have an old lady moving out of her home. Her son is helping her move out. She goes into the attic to grab this chest that is very, very important to her. And she tells her son, I need this with me. Once I read that chapter, I was like, well, I already know this book is gonna make me sad. Then the next chapter begins with going back in time to World War II. I can see where this is going. So it's a journey of 2 sisters and how they survived World War II in France. Don't let that deter you from reading it. It's very beautiful and very heartbreaking and very sobering. It made me think of that meme, the okay grandma meme, because you could be hearing your grandparents constantly talking about the war, but if you had to survive through all that, you wouldn't shut up about it either. It's different when you have to read it through someone else's eyes versus just learning about war in a textbook. I will say though, I don't know if I would put this at my #1 book of the year. It's not even in my #1 book of this month, but I have a feeling since there are numerous World War II historical fiction books, I might still be able to find one that I like more than this. I had to read a few in high school and they gave me the same emotions as The Nightingale did, so I don't know if I'd put that at my top. It didn't really stand out of the World War II books I've read. I mean, any book where it involves the mustache man is gonna be depressing, even when it involves a happy ending. So I finally read the last Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, the third one that I keep seeing on everyone's favorite, and the reason I started the series. I cried so many tears, both extremely happy and sad. I don't know if I would say this is my favorite out of the 3. It was different, a different kind of heartbreak than the first 2. The first 2 books are the FMC, Magnolia, and the MMC, BJ, finding their way back together after all the heartbreak. Now with the third book, they're happy. So I'm like, how is this 720 page book going to be filled up when it's not the same drama as the first two books? The first book with all the drama is like 450 pages. So at the beginning, I'm like, okay, this is sounding a little boring. They're finally working through their problems. They're slowly maturing. The second book does end up with something tragic happening, and it takes up most of the third book in such a beautifully tragic, heart-wrenching way. I've cried many tears about that part. We have the same type of BJ and Magnolia fights, same family fights, same friend fights. And like I said with the two books before this, like I never got tired of all the drama. And oh my gosh, I couldn't stop crying at the last few chapters when they were in Asia. The strong love and romance in Magnolia Parks is very hard to get out of a movie. The majority of books I read are fantasy romance. I don't really read a lot of real life romance because I assume they wouldn't hit the same as fantasy romance. But this pulled at my heartstrings more than a lot of the fantasy romance books I've read. I don't know if it's because it's realistic. I don't know if it's the writing style. Probably both. Even though it's filled with mundane, everyday life events, I still couldn't put this book down. So yeah, I kind of want to sprinkle in some more real life romance books after this. I have a feeling Magnolia Parks is like at the top at this category. Because again, I swear the emotions you feel in these books, it's so realistic. It's like you really know these characters. Even though they're like extremely rich and Magnolia just sounds like such a spoiled brat. I don't know why that never bothered me. I feel like anyone could get into these books. Okay, so now I go into the Metal Slinger. Where do I start? I love this. It's so different because they don't live on land. They live on this like grove water system. Like there's no actual land. They live kind of in trees. So that was really new. I love that. It was slightly giving Fourth Wing at the beginning. FMC has her same braid. She's in some kind of school or training, but I'm already loving her because she knows how to fight and she's not a fragile little girl. Once her man, her bestie, was described, blonde, longish hair, I was like, nope, we're gonna have some hot, dark hair, dark-eyed man pop up soon. Surely enough, we get him very quickly. I get it, authors, okay, but I wouldn't mind a long red-haired man like Lucien or white hair like Blackwell in Phantasma. My brain can't repeating the same man in my head. My thoughts aren't that creative when all you give me is dark hair, dark eyes. Because again, that's like every MMC in every single book. Be a little more descriptive than that, please. We have the whole school thing. We have them stuck on a boat for 10 chapters. Even with that, even though it was boring, it wasn't boring enough where I wanted to put the book down. But after the boat thing and they make it to land, I couldn't tell if it was a good or bad thing, but it was very guild coded. Camps, girl not knowing her power. Oh, surprise, he's a My pet peeve with Guild, again, is with how fluffed up and drawn out the books were, so I'm glad this was kind of like a slightly condensed version of it. I'm not a fan of how similar they were. The MMC's vibe and personality reminded me so much of Guild's MMC. And oh yay, now they're back in the castle. Okay, so the reason I got this book was because of TikTok, obviously, and how much people were talking about the crazy plot twist. And see, this is why I don't like any knowledge about a book, because I knew there was a plot twist. I'm anticipating this plot twist, and once it hits hard, like jaw dropped. But now I wish I experienced that plot twist not knowing it was coming. It was still a crazy plot twist. I was lying on my bed like this, and then once I hit the plot twist, I was like and I sat up cross-legged and was like and I had to reread it because I was like, what? It was still a good plot twist, even knowing there was one coming. See how I was saying how many people had so many questions for Fearless? Questions that wouldn't really change anything about the book, and they were nitpicking at every single thing. This plot twist, though, warrants all the questions. And it sucks because I want to voice those questions and talk about them with you guys, but then that would ruin the book for you if you haven't read it. That was one of the 3 things I didn't like about the book. 1, the plot twist had too many holes. Obviously the next book will probably fill those holes. But there are a few things that didn't make sense at all. The second thing I didn't like about the book, sometimes the writing was confusing that I had to go back and reread multiple times. I had to reread the spice scenes because I was like, how is his elbow there? But then her hand is here. Oh wait, I thought they were doing it already, but apparently not. I've never had to reread this much with any other book. Third thing I didn't really like, I do wish there was more substance to these characters. With so many books all the characters feel the exact same. Could the MMC in this book also be Xaden? Could he be Slade? Could the FMC of this book be Violet or Aaron? My standards for main characters now are up here. What makes them so different from the characters in any other book? Those were my qualms, but they weren't bad enough where it changed my opinion on the book. I loved it. I love a good plot twist. Definitely gonna reread it. Next we have The Heartless Hunter. I'm on chapter 5. I wonder if the FMC is gonna choose her blonde bestie, who's golden and warm as a summer day, or his closed and dark as a locked, windowless room brother, who has black hair, who's also her enemy, by the way. Decisions. I wonder which one. I enjoyed it almost as much as Metal Slinger. Like, Metal Slinger was here and this was like maybe like here. It was a way more simpler plot. We had a ton of things going on in Metal Slinger, but with Heartless Hunter, it's just like on one straight path, which wasn't bad or boring. So we have a witch, and then we have a man hunting witches. He's the lead witch hunter. So again, I will let you guys figure out what happens in this book, because that is the book. Simple enough, but intriguing enough. My bar for enemies to lovers is here, because so many books say they're enemies to lovers, but they're not. They're just usually two people who can't stand each other. The only true enemies to lovers characters who come to mind are from the Book of Azrael. So this is the closest I've gotten to another enemies to lovers, but it's still like around here enemies to lovers versus here. Even though they're enemies in like their work life, in their personal lives, they're not enemies. They're acquaintances. Again, he's her best friend's brother, so they know each other. When the book was ending though, I was like, okay, now you guys are enemies. I started freaking out when I was done because the second book wasn't on Kindle Unlimited. The first one is. I didn't want to wait 11 weeks on Libby, and I didn't want to pay $12 for the ebook when the physical book is also $12. So the next day I went out and bought the physical copy. That's how impatient I was. I have never done that with a book before. I didn't even go and buy the first book along with it. I was like, you know, I can wait till the first book goes on sale, but I need to read the second book right now. So the books were different enough from each other. I can't tell which one I liked more. I think I love these so much because again, they're an easy read. I haven't read any full-on witch book before this, but I have a feeling this is like a good intro witch book. I'm gonna look into more witch books because I had a fun time reading these books. Okay, next we have the whole Everflame series. The first book, it was feeling like so many other books. We have another girl in the slums who knows how to fight, giving Powerless. It's giving Quicksilver. Just like in Powerless, there are people who have magic powers and they are the superior race. Also, the FMC is a healer, so her vibe was also giving Kiva from the Prison Healer. We have another hot raven hair MMC. So even though the first book felt like a mix of multiple books, it still felt different, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Second book, okay, now I'm getting into it. Now it sounds different from any of the other books I read. There could be other books similar to this, but I just haven't read them yet. I'm gonna be honest, even though this is a long book, I barely remember anything that happened in the second one. The third one, everything is clear in my head. But I just remember that in the second book, she's finding out who she really is. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's all I can remember about the second book. The third book though, it was my favorite. I could not stop reading it. I do not like reading or watching reviews until I'm done with my book talk videos, but I saw the Everflame series pop up so much when I was done reading, and I was so shocked at how many people said they DNF'd the third book. I couldn't put this book down. I loved how they explored each city. It was fun seeing how different the cities were from each other, the climate, the people, the kings and the queens and the culture. I loved the layout because it was easy to remember the cities compared to other books where you have to keep going back and forth to the beginning of the book and be like, okay, you have to like look at the map back and forth. But at least with this country or continent, it was easy to follow along. So the thing that popped up the most on why there were so many DNFs is apparently how annoying and insufferable DM is, the FMC. I mean, you can tell she's immature at times, but I don't know if it's because I feel like she's still growing into who she's meant to be or because I'm used to characters like her. I mean, the FMC in the next book I'm gonna talk about is way worse. But that part never got under my skin. I didn't like Luther, the MMC. I don't like that he lost his edge. He was this scary but powerful, closed off, reserved man in the first book. Then these next two books, he's kind of following her around like a puppy. But yeah, none of that bothered me like how much it bothered other people. I was more focused on their little adventure and how they were gonna get out of all the terrible situations they were in each city. It could also be because they're not in a castle anymore, so I'm enjoying it because they're out of the castle. Because the first two, there's more castle. And this one, it's like I'm traveling with them and exploring new cities with them, so maybe that's why I loved it so much. Romance-wise, even though like Guild was a slow burn and I was getting so impatient that I literally could have just skipped a bunch of chapters to get to the romance part, I wouldn't even care that I skipped all those chapters. This series is an even slower burn, but my main goal isn't wanting to see them get together. I'm into everything else that's happening. If you want spice, these are not the books for you. I feel like the first book had more spice because their first kiss was hot, but since it took 3 books for spice, it was so slow that the spark fizzled out. It didn't hit as hard because they've already kissed a lot, they've slept in the same bed, slept next to each other a lot, so that tension wasn't the same as their first kiss. These are not the books for spice. I didn't care about that. The story was intriguing and consuming enough. There's barely a chapter where it gave me a break. The way that's written makes you just keep wanting to read more. When my husband and I met up with friends, I had to keep reading in the car. When we went to the movies the next day, again, I had to bring my Kindle and read in the car, even if it was just for 15 to 20 minutes. I needed all my free minutes to be spent reading this third book. So yeah, I guess I'm more into the books where the characters are not in a castle. I noticed that people think Reckless, my favorite one, is the filler book in the series, but that was my favorite because they were out of the castle. This third one, they're mostly out of the castle. But yeah, I personally freaking loved it. Okay, last we have Kiss of Basilisk. After the lack of spice and how intense and how there's so much going on with the Everflame series, I was like, okay, I need another chill, not stressful, spicy book. I was so pissed because I was done reading a section for the night. Before I went to sleep, I scrolled on TikTok for a bit and I got this smuttiest books I've ever read TikTok. And the first book that pops up is Kiss of Basilisk. And the first sentence she says gives me a spoiler. I was saving that spoiler for the next day. That is actually why I stopped reading the book, because I wanted to read that scene for the next day. So yeah, she instantly says the spoiler. She didn't even introduce the book or say what it was about. Just whoops, here's a spoiler. This is why I try to be vague with my reviews. I do not just give you guys the plot twists and spoilers. That would be really mean. So yeah, I think that was my first ever spoiler and it's not a good feeling. So the basic plot is we have another girl. I don't know if I would say she lives in poverty or the slums. So she joins this sex school so she can learn how to please the prince. This is in the first chapter, so I'm not spoiling it. The prince will choose out of the girls who he wants. The men who are teaching these girls in sex school are basilisks. I had no idea what that was. It sounded like a religious word, but they're these snake men teachers. The FMC falls in love, and in order to be with the person she wants, she has to do one crazy thing. This one crazy thing that she had to do, this is what the TikTok girl spoiled the book with. I would have never told you guys that plot twist. Yeah, you can see I'm really butthurt about that. It's like other smut books where if you take out the spice, it's not a strong plot. So I was gonna give it 3 peppers, but once I read the last pages, the scenes that aren't in the actual book, I was like, okay, that's 4 peppers. I was like, girl, why didn't you write spice like that in the actual book? With these spicy books, it's quality, not quantity, folks. You do it 50 times on the bed, that's not spicy. If she added that scene, that end scene to the book, okay, that's spicy. If you think DM is annoying, my god, Tam was 10 times worse. She twists everything the MMCs say, doesn't let them finish talking. They are patient AF with her. I would be screaming at her with how much she acts like a little girl and doesn't listen and talks over you. Hey, if you want some snake spice, then this book is for you. Let's go on to reading these books. This was the hardest reading I've had to do so far because all of these books are so extremely different from each other. We have witches, dark romance, World War II historical fiction, monster romance, contemporary romance. So I feel like these book ratings would change based on my mood, but as of right now, this is what I'm feeling. My number 1 would be Heat of the Everflame, the 3rd book. The one so many people DNF'd, yet it captured my attention the whole time. Second favorite would be Slinger, It was fun, it was different, it had a crazy plot twist. Third would be Magnolia Parks. Fourth would be Fearless. 5 and 6 would be Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch. 7 would be Glow of the Everflame, which is the second of the Everflame series. 8 would be The Nightingale. I'm sure people are gonna be like, you're putting The Nightingale at 8? You're rating it lower than Fearless and The Heartless Hunter? It's such a classic! I am basing these on which ones made me the happiest, the most intriguing ones, where I couldn't stop reading. Again, I've read so many books similar to The Nightingale when I was younger, and there wasn't anything in this book that made me feel any different from the other World War II books I read. It's a good, like, you have to read it once, but I wouldn't feel the urge to read it again. I'm glad I bought it though. Don't get mad. Number 9 would be Spark of the Everflame. 10, Whisper. 11, Lights Out. 12, Fourth Wing. 13, Kiss of Basilisk. And 14, Weapon. Honestly, I could put Fourth Wing lower than Kiss of Basilisk. Kiss of Basilisk felt more interesting and unique, but again, I feel like people are already gonna get mad that I don't like Fourth Wing. I wonder if it's the Academy thing. Here I am still contemplating about the whole Fourth Wing obsession. Is it because most of these younger girls who like it, they're still in high school and college, so maybe it feels like it's happening to them? I don't know, because again, nothing screams sexy or hot or unique or interesting about Xaden. Practically all the other MMCs I've read about have more personality to them. Okay, I'm done. I'm so sorry. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully.